This segment of Renegade TV is brought to you by Buzz Taylor Bail Bonds. Family owned since 1947, Buzz Taylor Bail Bonds provides 24/7 fast, dependable service. Call us in your time of need.
Doug, tell me a little bit about this brand new bike that you just unveiled. Starting from the front, we'll just work through the whole bike.
This front end is a Leo Diorio design component. It is a very, very modern day rigid. The down tubes are actually the same material that you would find on the top fuel car's rear wing strut. The shock absorber is a Penske IndyCar shock that has just about every adjustment that you can imagine, and as a result makes the ride of this motorcycle just phenomenal. From there, we used a set of wheels which are one-offs. As you can see, it is a multi-piece wheel, and instead of the rim being bolted to the center section where it was using a through bolt to take the two rim halves to bolt it to the center section, each individual hole has been tapped in the center segment. The rim halves have been countersunk, and each individual fastener has a tremendous amount of time and effort put into it. From there, there's a handmade fuel tank on the bike. John Little did the fuel tank for me. This bike was built, there's almost 1,600 man hours in this bike that was done in a very, very compressed amount of time. And something that we haven't touched on, and you can probably see it from where we're standing, if you look across the fuel tank, you will see in certain areas around the bike, they're on the rear fender, they're kind of sparsely placed, which is actually the logo of our company. The frame is a long story. The long and the short is most of this frame had to be cut apart and put back together again. When we put it back together again, we made the down tube a solid piece instead of having two separate units. We then ran the fuel from the tank into the left frame rail under the bike. It comes out of the frame rail and the fuel runs through the primary. Comes out of the primary, runs between the cylinders up to the PSI big air carburetor.
So did this start out as a stock frame and then you cut it, or is it a custom frame to begin with?
This was a custom frame that, because of the time crunch that we were in many cases we build our own frames.
Right.
When we got it, and me being a little more particular than most, we started to take some measurements on it, and we found out that the neck wasn't square, it was not 90 degrees to the axle.
Right.
We found out that there was a problem with the transmission saddle. It was crooked and down in one corner. And the down tube, which I told you we made into a single piece to run the fuel through it, we actually cut that out because there was actually a bow in the down tube. It was actually bent wrong and or welded wrong, and the heat they put into it caused some distortion. That all being said, we ended up reusing the dropouts, and like the backbone we reused the neck, but pretty much most of those pieces we either cut out and straightened and or just replaced completely.
Right, so now it's a custom frame.
It's a custom frame that probably costs 3 times more. Actually should have. The engine is of course an S&S. We did the top motor mount with the holes in it to kind of go along with the feel of the rest of the motorcycle. We made the intake. We took an old Stromberg sugar scoop, put a flange on it to go along with the visual harmony that you see with the wheels and the rotors and all the pulley stuff with the holes in the outside edge. The seat of course is a handmade piece done in-house by my guy Richie, which is done in a combination of shark and buffalo. The shifter handle, we pocket milled into the top of the primary, used a cheese head fastener from the back side, and then made 2 Delrin sleeves so that it didn't wobble and run loose.
Yeah, and I love how it's split right down the center.
You can either use the foot and standard hand clutch, which you would have to do to get the bike launched. Once the bike is up and rolling, this has a Baker torque box in it, which is a sequential transmission. The very bottom of the pattern is neutral, not first. So you don't have to fumble all the way to the bottom and then do a half pull to get into neutral, which is usually found between first and second gear. When you are shifting after you get this bike rolling, there are 2 sensors in the top cover of the transmission that recognize shift drum rotation. When the shift drum begins to move, we've wired it into the ignition system, and it will stumble the motor for a fraction of a second so that you can just rip off a shift with your hand and not have to worry about doing any sort of clutches. Rear fender was a solid blank. If you go to our TV site, creativecycles.tv, you will see how we did that rear fender. Everything on that fender was cut with a plasma cutter. The exhaust system is something that I'm really proud of. We worked with Lozano Brothers Racing and Burns Stainless and produced a computer modeled exhaust pipe that was designed to operate with the configuration in this engine and where I wanted the power band to be.
You took all that into consideration
When we made that pipe.
This pipe.
And then we had it shot in a silver glass coating, of course, to retain the heat. The hotter you can keep the exhaust gases, the more expanded they are, the faster they move, hence velocity.
Yes.
Anything that you can do to increase velocity in the exhaust system improves the efficiency of the intake system. So it's actually a very, very high-tech pipe, and it kind of went along with the rest of the high-tech stuff that we do at this motorcycle.
It is. The whole motorcycle is high-tech. I mean, it's just absolutely gorgeous. I love it. And I'm sure you've probably had a lot of people ask, when can I get one?
Name of the bike is Agnes. This bike is actually named after my mom.
No kidding.
So this was, you know, my mom was a tough woman, and she would let you know your position in life, and this bike kicked and screamed all the way to its loading into the truck to go to Las Vegas.
Well, Doug, I can tell you that it's a beautiful, beautiful tribute to your mother, and it's absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you.
The always generous, the always creative, the always kind, Doug Keim, thank you very much. Always a pleasure to see you, Doug.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Renegade TV was brought to you by Scores Baltimore, HR Results Inc., Buzz Taylor Bail Bonds, Ruel Salon and Spa.
Scoring for years, yo, they know me up in scores like known from cheers here to my scumbags. Welcome to the raw. Renegades hardcore, be more than scores.
For more information, visit renegadetv1.com.